The United States Senate just passed what is being called the biggest housing bill in more than 30 years. And for builders, developers, community lenders, and anyone working to increase the supply of housing, this looks like real progress. The 21st Century Road to Housing Act passed the Senate by an overwhelming bipartisan vote of 85-5. That level of agreement is unusual in Washington, and it sends a pretty clear message. The country needs more housing, and the people responsible for building it need fewer unnecessary barriers standing in their way. I'm Marc Renz, and this is the Real Estate Capital Desk. Today, let's take a look at why this legislation could be a win for builders and what still needs to happen. The first thing to understand is that this is not one small housing program. It is a broad package made up of dozens of individual housing reforms. The goal is to increase housing supply, reduce unnecessary regulatory costs, modernize outdated housing programs, and improve access to financing. That matters because the housing shortage is not caused by one single problem. Builders face permitting delays, developers face zoning and regulatory barriers. Projects are slowed by environmental reviews. And smaller community banks often face regulatory restrictions that make it harder for them to finance local construction. One of the most promising provisions for builders is support for pre-approved housing designs. This encourages communities to create pattern books. These books contain plans already reviewed for local building codes. That could reduce design and permitting delays significantly for certain housing types. Instead of starting every home from zero, builders may be able to use proven designs already acceptable to the local jurisdiction. That means more time actually building. The legislation also includes measures to streamline federal and local housing processes. Small-scale projects could receive relief from lengthy environmental reviews. For developers, time is money. Every month spent waiting for approvals means additional interest expense, insurance, and uncertainty. Shortening that timeline is key. The bill also updates federal multifamily construction loan limits to better reflect current construction costs. Many existing limits were created decades ago. A financing program does not help much if its limits no longer reflect the actual cost of building. Updating those limits creates better opportunities for multifamily development. Manufactured and factory-built housing also receive attention. The bill modernizes rules and standards to make these homes easier to finance and produce. This creates opportunities for builders in rural communities and entry-level markets where conventional construction has become increasingly expensive. Another important area is community banking. The bill contains provisions intended to reduce unnecessary regulatory burdens on well-managed community and rural banks. Community banks have historically played an important role in financing local builders. If they spend less time on red tape, they can spend more time making responsible loans. This doesn't mean every loan becomes easier to obtain. Lenders will still evaluate projects, but expanding the number of institutions capable of lending is good for everyone. The legislation also allows communities to direct more federal block grant resources toward affordable housing construction and neighborhood redevelopment. While there are provisions restricting large institutional investors, the more important story for builders is the focus on faster approvals and expanded financing tools. Now, this bill is not law yet. The Senate passed the negotiated version, but the House still needs to approve it before it can be sent to the President. Implementation will matter. Federal agencies will need to write rules, and local communities will need to participate. It won't solve the housing shortage overnight. But that should not take away from what has happened. An 85-5 vote shows both parties recognize that we cannot improve affordability without increasing supply. And increasing supply means making it easier for builders to produce housing. For the people who actually build homes, this appears to be a step in the right direction. We will continue watching the bill as it returns to the House, and we will break down the final provisions once the implementation details become clearer. And before we go, maybe you noticed, but the Marc you've been watching is actually an AI avatar of the real Marc Renz. Technology makes it easier to keep you informed. I'm Marc Renz, and this is the Real Estate Capital Desk, presented by Horizon Funding Advisors. Subscribe for updates on construction lending and housing policy.